Hello YouTube, it's Christian, I'm here with Cody, and we're going to be joined by Matt Hawkins for this month, February. Matt is co-hosting on Monday. Today's topic is going to be property management and insourcing, what the heck it is, and how it works.
Well, welcome back to the channel, number one, and today we're joined by a phenomenal guest, and I was told when I got into business that you should never be the smartest person in the room. Matt is losing that today. Matt is by far the smartest person on this call, and we are super stoked to be able to have him on the channel. So Matt, welcome in, and tell us a little bit about what the heck property management and insourcing is.
Yeah, so super excited to be here. So as you guys know, I'm a lumberjack landlord, and been doing this for a little over 20 years, have a little over 100 units that I self-manage. And so one of the biggest keys for our success is not using property management, because if you ask anybody that's ever used property management, they have nightmare stories. The little dangerous thing that they won't tell you is that it usually costs them more than half of their actual profit. So the property manager is actually making more money than you are off of an asset that you own, which, yeah, that's not going to work for me emotionally. So we made that change. We were never going to go down the road of property management. And so what we had to do was start creating processes and procedures that allowed us to better understand our business. And what that translated to was something that we tabbed as property management insourcing. Really, at a very high level, all property management insourcing is that instead of that property manager getting the phone call, your network is getting the phone call. And there's a number of different ways to design it. The way that we've designed property management insourcing is that we have our property management software that all of our tenants have access to through a portal. And then when they log a ticket, I get notified, as does our lead property manager. And
so if we backtrack that, you've got over 100 rentals, but for those who are getting started and they want to start insourcing,
sure.
You talk about a team, you talk about the platform and the software. I mean, where do you start? Because not everybody has 100 plus rentals. I mean,
sure.
we do, you do. But let's say someone has got 10 rentals.
Sure.
Should they build the team first? Should they get the platform first? What do they do?
So I think that really depends on the operator. So I like to talk about people being operators and not just investors, because I think that it confuses the point when people talk about only being an investor. Are you only an investor, or are you an operator? And so operators are the ones that banks want to talk to. Operators are the ones that, quite frankly, have learned the business well enough that they can actually teach other people how to do it. So I would say it really depends on the operator themselves and which point they're struggling. So the way that I would lay it out is this, is that we went for years without a property management software. The reason we did that for years and went without a property management software was because we didn't mind getting the text messages to our phone. As soon as somebody would move in, we would set up a group text with them. So we knew anything that came up, they would send it to the group text. Something that simple. And so we did that for years and years and years until we hit probably the 80 unit mark, because that was good enough for us. Go ahead.
And just for those who are watching, is we, you and a spouse? Is that you and business partners?
Me and Mrs. Lumberjack.
Alrighty, so it is really just your family unit. You don't have other people. I have Christian to help delegate stuff to, but it is your unit.
I'm not that lucky. My wife is amazing, but she's more back office. It's much more because I still have a W-2, so I still work every day. And so because of that, if there was something that came up that was emergent and I might be in a meeting, she would also get CC'd on it. And so for the longest time, for the beginning of that insourcing process, it was just setting up a text message with all the tenants on it. That way, everybody always knew what was going on. If you don't set it up with everybody in the house that has a cell phone, it's the game of telephone. Oh, did you contact them about? Oh, well, what about this? You can triple to quadruple the amount of text messages you're going to get just because you're not efficiently and effectively communicating. So in the very beginning, like I said, up until about 80 units, I wouldn't recommend going that large and like we did. But until it was 80 units, we were just group text messages so we would know something was going on. The cool thing about getting something like that is we could literally just take it and share it with whatever contractor we were going to send on site to do the work. So our entire work was, as I used to say, I'm the wealthiest and best paid text message forwarder in the world. And that's what it was. I was literally forwarding text messages, and that's what it took. I didn't have to encapsulate it. I didn't have to reiterate it. I didn't have to restructure it. It was literally just snapshot, send it off to the contractor, and he knew what to do. And then he would respond back to me with when he could get there.
So as far as building up to 80 units, because that's more than most people will build to. Some people will exceed that, but as far as the communication goes, it's all about streamlining, keeping it super efficient. When it comes to building your network and your team, who are the key players on that? Because I can rely on Christian to get stuff done, but we haven't executed your model to the level of efficiency and really excellency that you've done it. Like, we don't have the systems down, we don't have the network down. So just as like a personal question, who are the people we need on our team to make sure we can streamline the process?
Because I'm trying to figure out stuff like boots on the ground, by the way, and like we hired someone for that, and we let them go within the same hour. It just wasn't the right fit for the position. So I'd love to hear some of who are the members of the team who, at the end of the day, handling that phone and boots on the ground when you're showing a unit and you're self-managing and you're working a full-time job. I want to hear more about this team too.
Yeah, so I think from a model perspective, what we did was in that boots on the ground concept. One of the things that we always focused on was trying out multiple vendors. And so you're not going to get there day one. That's the mistake that everybody makes, is they think that your network is you get a guy and you're like, I now have the guy. You don't have the guy. I promise you don't have it. And so what you need to do is in kind of that process is you're basically on any project I'm looking at, I want 3 quotes. And then I see who the guys are, how they are to work with. And then when I do a project with them, I'm not always picking the cheapest. Sometimes I'm picking the guy who can get it done the fastest. And so it really comes into, and one of the things that we cover a lot in my course, which is all about self-management and how to build your business from 0 units to whatever number you want to get to. It's all about process, it's all about efficiency, and it's all about really task management. And finding a process by which you can do that to create optimal efficiency. What that all really means is that it takes time to build your team, but as you build your team, you're going to recognize, hey, this roofer, every single time I contact him, he can get it done for me within a week or 2. His price is right around the other people's prices, and the quality's there. He's never had to come back and fix anything. Now, you're not going to know that on your very first one. And so that's where it's important to basically, when you get anything quoted, get it quoted out 3 times. When you get that information quoted out those 3 times, you're then going to start to see a pattern. And just because they did that first deal with you and it was good, doesn't mean that they just get carte blanche the next deal. That's not how this goes. Like, that's just silliness. Because a lot of contractors will give you a great price on that first one because they realize you're a landlord. You're going to come back for more. And then big surprise, the next one was 18% more expensive because they were making up for the 10% they didn't get on the first deal. So it's something to keep in mind that as you're building that team, you want to make sure to get multiple quotes, have that conversation, and then also get detailed quotes because now contractors are a little bit less busy than they were.
And I want to make sure everyone heard that because that's one of the biggest mistakes Cody and I made early is we had a contractor who did an okay job on a building. He was pretty quick. He was easy to work with, very personable, and we just enjoyed being around him. So then we had him do a roof he had no idea how to do. He put Cody's torch down roof on upside down so the water went under it instead of over it.
Not good.
Not good at all.
It's
the second thing we did
for the purpose of a roof.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it does. And so we just had a huge problem. Then we had to get another contractor in there who had the first project. He went over bid. However, same thing. He was really easy to work with. He did a really good job as far as like the units looked really nice. I was like, man, cost more than you told us it would. But next project, you need to bid this out correctly so we can budget correctly. We raised capital for the new roofs for him to redo the old roofs, and he went, was it like 40% overbid?
Yeah, it was 40% overbid, and that was 40% over the contingency funds of 15%. So it was really bad.
It's more like 50% over, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the management of that was poor, all ends around it. But as far as like back to you and the insourcing piece, you talk about being an operator because we were not being operators, we were being investors in that sense. And we lost out. Yeah. You do a lot more with the bank game, and we're going to talk more on future episodes with you about how you're playing the bank game, making your own products. How does insourcing management and being an actual operator influence your ability to get bank loans and create new products and build these relationships?
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. For every 10 investors, there is one operator, one true operator. And that was the purpose. So there's amazing courses out there on how to buy. Your guys' course on how to buy real estate is phenomenal. Being able to do seller financing, being able to negotiate terms. These are the tenets of starting that business. The issue is once you've got that building, literally the course that I created is called, "Oh shit, I'm a landlord, now what?" Because that's exactly how I felt the day that I was at the closing table and I was like breaking my arm, patting myself on the back going, "I'm a landlord, I'm going to be rich." And then I was like, oh shit, I'm a landlord, now what? I don't have leases. I don't have contracts. I don't have the tenants' contact. I didn't even get an estoppel. I don't have the ability to contact the tenants. I don't know them. And so it was all these different things that came into play, which is why I created the course that I did, which really picks up from where you understand how to buy. Now you have to understand how to manage just as importantly, because you buy once, you manage forever. And so it's that insourcing concept is exactly like what we're talking about, where it's going to take time to build out a team. You're going to kiss some frogs without a doubt. But the biggest mistake that people can make is going with a contractor that they feel comfortable with. I'm not much for feelings. So you feel comfortable with them, you like them, that's what gets bad contractors more business, is because they're not actually good at what they do. They're just easy to work with, and they're good, and they're good guys. They just happen to suck at what they do. So you'll run into plenty of those. And so the key is staying disciplined in the beginning and making sure that you're getting all that you need to out of your contractors, which is, if you bid that roof out, you probably would have had two guys tell you, "Don't do a torched roof. You should be doing a rubber roof." It's probably what it would have been told. But they also would have told you, yeah, it's about 50% more expensive. But they would have then told you, hey, listen, it's good for 40 years. I would do a rubber roof. Then you'll never touch that roof again. And for me, I'm a little bit like Dion from Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I like to itch the easy button and the lazy button. I like to do that. And so the only way that you can manage the number of units that I manage is if you are taking the path of process and efficiency. You couldn't do it otherwise.
Well, it's because of you that we added a fourth step to our business cycle. We used to be build phase, stabilization phase, debt hammer. So we build the portfolio, we figure out how to buy stuff, then we stabilize it, and then we pay it off. But since we started chatting with you, now we have build phase, stabilization, optimization, and then debt hammer. And that's the piece we really missed, is the operator side of it, which is what we're shifting to now. But it's one thing to build, another thing to stabilize its existence and then pay it off. But the optimization's the big piece.
Well, and you make it's a lot of fun buying real estate. Like the actual get out there, your first deal is always going to be your hardest. I think everyone pretty much universally agrees with that. Once you get the momentum going, though, it's not hard to find a good deal. You see a good deal, you execute it, you write it up, it closes, ta-da, you own more real estate. It's super fun. The operations is not always the fun part, but it is 100% where you make the most money. Like 110%.
That's how my worst returning asset is over 20%. That's my worst one. My best one is...
That sucks. No, just kidding.
I've had better days, but my best one returns 60% capital. It just prints money, and people are always trying to buy it from me. I was like, why would I ever sell this? Why would I ever sell it? You want to pay me 20 years of revenue? Sure, you can have it. Otherwise, I'm not interested in selling it. They're like, well, that price is absurd. Yeah, that's the point, dummy. I don't want to sell it. It makes me 60% on money. Yeah, of course. And to your point, that optimization point, you're dead on. Stabilization is one thing, but optimization is a whole new thing, right? Stabilization is you got it to a point where you're not getting a revolving door on a larger property when it comes to the units. That's stabilizing. Optimizing is now you've got them there. Now it's a matter of making sure that you're getting as close to market rents as possible, and that you're doing that with tenants that have proven to you that they're worth it, right? It cuts both ways, and this is a business. And so you have to be able to have those conversations with tenants, even if it's via text message, because we do a lot of student housing. They're not ready for me to sit across the table from them and have that conversation. They're not ready for that. They're 20 years old. Are they going to tell me exactly how they're feeling in that moment? Probably not. So it's easier to just do it through text, but having that conversation is really the most important thing, because it puts you in a position where you can optimize, not just stabilize. So I think that's a good delineation you guys have made.
Well, I mean, we didn't have that step till we talked with you. So it helps to be able to talk with the, like we mentioned earlier, the smartest person in the room. Do you have anything else you'd like to share on insourcing for this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key is that, you know, let's really not boil the ocean. Let's look at exactly what this is. This is, do you want to expedite the case by which you can retire and achieve financial freedom? If you do, let me know why giving up 60% of your net income to somebody else makes sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. So if that's the idea, think of it another way. You have to acquire twice as many properties just to have the same net if you're using property management. So if you can achieve this one task, you will likely reach financial freedom twice as fast. And it's something you can keep forever, because once you have the process in place, it's just like anything. The buildings that you and I have owned for the longest time, they're the most stable. They're the most optimized because they're just dialed in, right? They're dialed in, and that's the key.
Yeah, my first property is definitely more stable than our first property together.
Oh yeah, our first property is a huge project. It was stable, then we decided to destabilize it to take it to the next level.
We rocked the boat. Now we got it fully stabilized. It cash flowed over $10,000 a month for a couple months, and then we took it negative again so we could do development. Oops, we're rocking the boat, but we want to become operators, so we're going to build brand new and then just have nice stuff like you.
Yeah.
Well,
and we stabilized a bunch of other properties to get there. So.
Yeah, and that's the key, is it's a process. And as an operator, you guys are just working through your portfolio. Stabilization, optimization, and then, you know, hammering debt. I think that's a brilliant strategy. And one, quite frankly, if people just execute on that, you guys would never, technically, you won't ever need to buy another property again. You guys would be fine with even just what you have. Obviously, because you're as good at buying as you are, the key is, you know, moving the bottle to the other end of the bar, because it becomes too easy to buy. You know, I could buy 2 deals a week if I wanted to live with lesser margin or be okay with that deal. I only want amazing deals. If it's not going to make me 20 points, I'm not touching it. It's not of interest to me.
And just to reiterate to the audience, because I've got a ton of messages from younger folks, guys and gals that are 16 to 21, sure. And they're looking at me owning stuff at 23, but I've still been doing this for almost 4 years. Right. You've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, almost since I was born.
Yes.
How long was it until you had, let's just say, $1 million liquid that you didn't have to spend somewhere?
Probably 15 years. $1 million liquid, 15
yeah.
years. Because for me, it was, the longer that you can delay the gratification of taking in the cash flow, the bigger the cash flow gets. And so everything for me, in fact, the honest truth is that I am over 20 years into this journey. I've never taken a dime out of the business.
But could you?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I just, for me, it's, and again, I mean, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, the key here is now recognizing that probably your first most important move is a house hack. That's your first and most important move, because that gives you the ability to live for free. And when you can live for free, there's no better option. And be building in that asset, be building equity. So there's no better option than house hacking for your first one. And I know I helped somebody, they were in their early 20s. They house hacked. They got a house. They were paying $1,200 a month in rent. Now they live there for free and they make $100. They bought a fourplex. And they did it with $8,000 out of pocket.
That's incredible. And that's a great way to learn how to be an operator, because you get to be the owner operator.
Absolutely. And live there and see it. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah, on-site management is taken care of. Well, I have one more question on property management, and then we'll wrap for this episode.
Sure.
So you're self-managing. You mentioned that you have a property manager, so there's someone somewhere in the portfolio that's doing stuff for you. How are you actually handling the boots on the ground if you're not an actual property management company? What does the personnel look like to run this? Do you have like students going out and posting notice for you? How did you structure the actual business for that many rentals and your full-time job?
Me and Mrs. Lumberjack, it's the two of us. The way the property manager functions, kind of his role in this, is that we will assign tasks to him. He's not an employee; he's a 1099, but he works for us and for some other folks as well. But because we're his biggest customer, we get priority. But he's not an employee; he's just he's a 1099. We treat our contractors great. We give them bonuses. We do nice things like that. So we like to stay at the top of the pile, but not have to be their employer. And so that's worked really well for us. And so I think the key is that it also allows us to have the conversation with them saying, hey, listen, we can bring you on as a 1099. And this is what that looks like. And as things progress, if things look good after 6 months and you want to become an employee and we want to start to go down that path, we can do that. But this is kind of how we start things out. We want to make sure it's a good fit for both of us.
That's awesome.
That way you're not making that commitment up front to an employee that you might have to fire 60 minutes later.
Well, I mean, been there, done that. So, well, Matt, we really appreciate you jumping on today, and we're excited to see how the next few episodes unfold. Where can folks find your channel if they want to learn how to become a better operator?
Sure. So they can check us out at Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube. We're also on Instagram with Lumberjack Landlord as well, where we post a lot of the 160-year-old projects that we do. In fact, you're going to see an amazing toilet post tomorrow with a fantastic story. And then I've got my course, which is, oh shit, I'm a landlord, now what? And there's the course, and then there's also something we do, which is a boot camp, which is basically just to get like-minded individuals discussing the same concepts and same topics of how to best manage their business as they continue to grow it. Because I went from 0 to now I'm over 130 units. So.
And do we find the course and the boot camp on your Instagram? Where do we go?
You can go right to Instagram. The link is there. It's also on YouTube. It's also on my website.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for jumping on, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Appreciate it.